Thanks for staying with us. We're going to start with the nation. President-elect election is over. It's time for healing. Washington Post rates polls high in spite of hitches. We will deliver red line before May 29th, says Sanwo-Olu. Woman said son, wife and children ablaze. Anxiety over results persists in Enugu, Abia, Adamawa and Kebbi. No cash in banks despite CBN's 1 trillion naira in circulation claim. Digital economy operators exempted from 5% excise duty. And declare me winner of all cancelled election, Obi urges tribunal. All right. Which story are we starting with?
I have the Lagos State governor is assuring Nigerians that the red line, that's the real mass transit red line project, will become a reality before May 29th. He had gone to inspect the project sites in Yaba and Ebute-Metta, where the stations and the vehicular bridge overpass are sited. And he expressed satisfaction with the level of work that's going on there. And, you know, in answering questions, he says that he's confident that before the end of their first term, the project should be ready and there'll be test runs like they're doing right now for the Blue Rail. And he also used the opportunity when he was asked about the sort of, you know, what went on during the elections and the sort of divisive comments that were going on around the elections. And he says that that is a regrettable thing, you know, the divisive rhetorics which came up. But he's assured residents that the healing process has begun. Yeah, so very soon we'll be celebrating another completed project.
Yes, so the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, came out of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting held at their headquarters in Abuja yesterday and said that the Apex Bank has pumped in money into the money banks for circulation. And he said that the currency in circulation is roughly close to 1 trillion, and the CBN continues to pump the newly designed currency into the market. So he went ahead to speak up again, saying that they need to reassess to know whether the currency in circulation has attained the optimal level so that they're able to put measures back in place so they don't allow a lot of money to be outside the banking system like the issues we had before this monetary policy came. And he said that they are also going to be instituting withdrawal limits, you know, just to reduce the currency that's outside the banking system. Then he went ahead to praise the fintech operators who they have, you know, tried as much as possible to increase their capacity so that we can have online transactions, and apologize to Nigerians, though they didn't get exactly what he said in the apology, but he apologized, saying to Nigerians for the pains that they have gone through while trying to carry out electronic transactions across several banks. I would have wanted to hear him tell us how this has impacted positively or negatively in the economy. I would have wanted to hear him say something about people who have lost their businesses, because they still went ahead to ask a lot of business people, and they said businesses have dropped. A lot of people are not able to make payments, and then a lot of businesses have crumbled and crushed. Nobody's talking about it. We're talking about how much naira is in circulation. And the banks are saying that they don't have money. They're still cutting 20,000 now, 10,000 tomorrow, 5,000. There's still not enough cash for people who really need to have access to this cash.
So the president-elect has been was saying yesterday that he's urging Nigerians particularly to start the healing, especially now that politics and elections are over. He has said that the political class must rise above the differences and team up with him to strengthen and the value strings that bind us together as a nation. He particularly stressed that politics are over. The time for politicking is gone. Time is for the nation to build. It's time for the nation to begin building. Attacks beyond one individual or a section of society. He also said that we need every hand on deck. I am ready to work with you all as a president. He also said that he will be a worthy partner they can trust and rely on him, and to bond the whole nation together. It is in unity of purpose and renewed hope for the betterment of our blessed country and beloved people. He also said that he's pained by the cases of ethnic slurs reported in some locations across the country that are physical and verbal assaults, are unacceptable and unethical to democratic ethos. So we must ensure that we begin the system of healing, and I think that's the right thing to do. That's the right rhetoric we need now as we're trying to move past the elections.
Okay, so the Minister for Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Issa Pantami, says that the President has approved that the digital sector, the telecom service operators are exempted from the 5% excise duty going forward. It says that as regards the implementation of the Financial Act law is concerned, they are now exempted from the excise duties. And it says this is because already they're overburdened by over 41 categories of charges, taxes, and levies. And this is based on the recommendation of a committee where he, the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission, the Minister for Finance, the Chairman of FIRS, all of those members were members of a committee, and those were their recommendations, which the President has approved. And so the digital sector, the operators of telecoms will be exempted going forward. I think 41 different levies and charges is enough, truly, if we don't want, because it will pass at the end of the day to the consumer.
Okay, let's move on to The Punch. Protests rock Ogun, Abia Nasara over poll results. Economists fault MPC over 18% lending rate. Ogun ex-permanent secretary wife found dead in Lagos home. FG loses suit to recover 70 trillion naira loot. US hails INEC, threatens visa ban over violence and intimidation. Atiku will beat 2 others, ask tribunal to nullify Tinubu's victory. Okay, which story? Are we starting with The Punch?
Yes, we are, and they have this really sad story. So they said a former and ex-permanent secretary in Ogun State, Adefemi Agbeoluwa, and his wife, Olufemilayo, their bodies were found in their home here in Lagos State. They lived in Ikeja and Allen Avenue. They said that the families were home during the governorship elections, and the person that was talking to reporters said that, and then they got a report that they had been killed, they had been murdered. So they went into the house and they found their bodies in the pool of blood, the man and his wife. But they also found the help that's always helped them. They're an elderly couple, they're in their 70s, and she's been helping them. And she, although still alive, had serious, and they say critical injuries, she's in critical condition in hospital right now. Police is investigating. Their son also made a report. So to say who did it exactly, they don't have that, but they said people came into their house and attacked them. They found sticks, and they also found machetes, and they said an ID card also was dropped at the scene of the crime. Hopefully, they are able to find who did this and bring them to book. And may their souls rest in peace.
And there's this federal government suit of to recover about 70 trillion naira that has been struck out of court. So the Honorable Justice Peter Lifu of the Federal High Court in Lagos struck out this charge that the federal government, from the Office of the Attorney General, brought against 29 banks or 29 bank accounts. According to them, 70 trillion naira was allegedly stashed in about 29 bank accounts by looters, and they had gone to court with about 17 commercial banks and the Nigerian Ajip Oil Company Limited and the NNPC, who were listed as respondents in that case. And they had gotten an interim order to forfeit since 2021, but they continued the case in such a terrible way that the judge was forced at this time to just strike it out. They would not show up in court. The judge said they handled it. It was what they call lack of diligent prosecution. They handled it in the worst excuse for that. And even when they changed their counsel from Mohammed Ndarani SAN to Femi Falana SAN, it was still the same narrative where the lawyers were not coming to court at all. And so we don't know if except they can refile this matter, whether this 70 trillion naira will be recovered. And I hope that it's not some form of corruption also happening to the law again. It's just so sad.
So the U.S. government yesterday reiterated its decision to impose additional visa ban on those responsible for a large-scale violence that trailed the general elections in the country, especially in the governorship and state assembly elections that happened this past Saturday. So the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria listed some states that they found the violence in Lagos, Kano, among others, and they said that they were expressing deep concern over the intimidation of voters and suppression caused by the violence. And they made a statement. So members of the U.S. diplomatic mission observed the elections in Lagos and elsewhere and witnessed some of these incidents firsthand. The use of ethnically charged rhetoric before, during, and after the gubernatorial election in Lagos was particularly concerning. We commend all Nigerian political actors, religious and community leaders, youth and citizens who have chosen to reject and speak out against such violence and inflammatory language, affirming Nigerians' commitment to and respect for the democratic process. We call on Nigerian authorities to hold accountable and bring to justice any individuals found to have ordered or carried out efforts to intimidate voters, suppress voting during the election process. And they are also considering giving additional visa ban to some of these people after the government has done due diligence, investigated, and then tried to prosecute the people involved.
So 4 presidential candidates on Tuesday approached the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal, asking them to nullify the declaration of the Bola Tinubu of the APC. These 4 from the LP, the PDP, Action Alliance, and the Allied People's Movement. They had petitioned the court that Tinubu was not duly elected by majority of the lawful votes that was cast. They also claimed that they were rigging in 11 states, and they also claimed that the petitioner shall now show that the computation and declaration of the results of the election based on the updated results were that the president-elect was not the right person. He also further in the petition said that the fact that INEC violated its regulations when it announced the results, despite the fact that at the time of the announcement, the result hadn't been uploaded or transmitted electronically, was a violation of the Electoral Act. So they're asking the court to say Bola Tinubu's election was null and void. Tinubu sues for peace. We're here in Vanguard. Tinubu sues for peace, condemns ethnic slurs, election violence. Obi Atiku others file petitions to nullify Tinubu's victory. Grandmother said son, wife and 2 grandchildren ablaze in Ondo. Polls, U.S. plans new visa ban on electoral offenders. How I curbed vote buying, says Buhari. Contempt, order courts to reject EFCC cases. Over 250 lawyers tell NJC. Constitutional review, Buhari rejects bill on power to summon president and governors. Anxiety heightens over Enugu Abia governorship results. Kaduna train attack, FG docks terrorist negotiator Mamu on 10-count charge. And FG exempts Telcom from 5% excise duty. Okay, which story are we starting with?
So I've got the federal government yesterday. They arraigned the Abuja-Kaduna train kidnapper negotiator, Mr. Tukur Mamu, on a 10-count terrorism charge. I think we remember in September 2022, he was arrested in Cairo on his way to Saudi Arabia. The charges they say that have been brought before him are that he has aided terrorist operations in the country, and that investigations have revealed that he collected an aggregate sum of $420,000 from families of the victims, as well as the 21 million naira from another set of families of the train victim. They said he also concealed funds he earned from services rendered to the terrorist organization in his residence. They're also saying that sometime in 2022, he received ransom payments, the sum of 500,000 on behalf of Boko Haram terrorist group from families of train attack that were held hostage. Then they said investigation also shows that there were voice note communications he had with one Baba Adamu, who has been identified as a spokesperson for Boko Haram in relations to acts of terrorism. Anyway, the defendant is said to have acted in the breach of the Terrorism Prevention Prohibition Act of 2022. His lawyer is asking, though, that he be granted bail while his case is being looked at. And one of the things is because it says that he's sick, he's not feeling well, and also that he has the right of presumption of innocence before, and so that should allow him to be given bail. Anyway, the bail was denied, and they said that they have all the facilities to take care of his ailment in custody, and that should go ahead and retain him.
So our President Muhammadu Buhari, spoke at the farewell meeting with the outgoing United States Ambassador Mary Beth Leonard at the State House in Abuja. And he said he was completely satisfied with his role in the election process. Said that he told his people, any candidate that offers you money, collect the money, but vote your conscience. And that he had given a chance for a free and fair election, as well as non-interference as witnessed in the elections. Now, he said he now knows that Nigerians are capable of picking people who they believe can work for them without anybody telling them what to do. And also the fact that there was this Naira redesign that didn't give the politicians an opportunity to have money to spread across. Also, they were not able to buy their votes. That also made it possible for us to have a free and fair election. And the remarks of the U.S. ambassador, the outgoing U.S. ambassador, she said she was happy with the progress made in Nigeria-U.S. relations in the 3.5 years. And she went ahead to cite examples of what they have achieved so far. Now Nigeria has a 5-year visa, regime. So when you're applying for your visa, you get 5 years instead of the normal 2 years. They are also having a lot of collaboration in the security space. Says supply of military hardware, including warplanes, soon-to-come fighter helicopters, and cooperation in the health sector, like we saw during the HIV and COVID-19 responses. And that Nigeria, the U.S. will continue to support Nigeria to grow in democracy and everything that they need.
Oh, hello. President Muhammadu Buhari refused to sign the bill that chooses to empower the National Assembly and State Houses of Assembly to summon presidents of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the governors to State Assembly to answer questions on issues which the National Assembly or State Houses of Assembly had powers to make. And he, according to the report, the Senate President was just recounting that actually 35 amendments to the Constitution were done. He has assented to 16 of them, but there are 19, and one of those 19 is this bill that I just read out that he refused to assent to. He also said that he refused to assent to an alteration that seeks to compel persons to obey or comply with legislative summons that was given out by any of the houses of assembly, by either the National Assembly. And these are laws. He said, but he also noted that the president had assented to that which empowers the local governments and grants them autonomies and the independence of the state houses of assembly. He had already signed that. So there are good sides to those that he signed, but this particular one, I would love to see. You know, I think the president, of course, will be looking at the clash with the section that provides immunity and how it affects the smoothness of running of office. But I don't think that, you know, just appearing before the House is of such an issue, you know.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on now to Tribune. The Nigerian Tribune, Article B, APM, AA filed petitions to nullify Tinubu's victory. Lawal of PDP defeats Matawale in Zamfara. Flawed elections, Nigeria has grown beyond military coup, says Washington Post. Buhari exempts digital economy sector from 5% excise duty, says Pantami. It is my turn to be Senate President, says Carlu. Over 250 constitutional human rights lawyers ask NJC to direct all courts to reject EFCC cases, and Buhari celebrates Elumelu at 60. Okay.
Okay, so the court had given an order finding the EFCC chairman in contempt of court, which he refused to show or purge himself off. And so 250 constitutional and human rights lawyers have called on the NJC to direct all courts in Nigeria not to entertain any matter, any case at all from the EFCC until the EFCC chairman follows the law. And I think it's the right call. The EFCC chairman, as somebody who enforces, who is a security enforcer himself, should know better than to disregard any court in this country. And I hope that the NJC does the needful.
Do we have another story? So Nigeria is ranked 95th happiest nation in the world, according to the latest edition of the World Happiness Report.
We have dropped.
Yes, the report, we had dropped, Abi? Oh, I was expecting like 10th or 20th.
What are the indices they use? Because I
So
don't know if they
it
have
was released on Monday by the Sustainable Development Solutions Network as part of the United Nations International Day of Happiness, March 20. And they focused on happiness measured by evaluations and emotions, how they have evolved in crisis situations, and how people's lives have improved where trust, generosity, and supportive social connections have thrived. So those were the indices that they use. So it assigns a happiness score on a scale of 0 to 10 based on an average over a 3-year period. So I think we should work towards getting to be in the first place. Finland is still maintaining the world's happiest country in the world.
But we will see the dance on TikTok, so you can assume.
The Lagos State red line.
Maybe I did already. Okay, let me take
One of the woman, the grandma that set ablaze.
So we see already
It was a really, really sad story.
Oh, I took it, but somebody ticked it. Okay, so let me just establish it.
Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so a couple and one of their children have been burned to death in the fire that razed their residence at the weekend in Apomu, Akure, South Local Government area. They said the second child was rescued in receiving treatment in the hospital. The mother of the deceased was identified as Eforiti, who reportedly claimed responsibility for the fire that killed the family. According to an eyewitness, said he noticed fire in the house at about 2 a.m. and had to break the window to rescue the victims. So the woman, her son, Victor Oloro, wife, Racheal, and children, Toluwani and Blessing, were all in the house when the woman set it on fire. She said she got dry palm fronds and a little petrol and, poured it all over the house and then set it on fire. When she was arrested and then asked why she did that, she said because they were starving her. They were not giving her food, and that was why she did that. So investigations are ongoing. I'm sure it may have to do
They certainly can't give her food again. The Senate chief whip is intended in... you know what the
You know what's important?
Ondo State wants to be Senate president, that's all, along with Akpabio and some other senators from the north. And he says no, from the north, from Niger State and Kano, along with others. So Akpabio from the south, but he says that it's the time for the north, southeast, and that is also the time for a Christian Senate president from the southeast. And being a high-ranking senator, he thinks that is time. I agree with him.